All right, so our next unit is cells. And so we're going to do a little background about cells. And so we want to think about cells in terms of where they are in terms of life. And so our previous unit was about chemistry. So cells are actually, if we went back further, before a cell, cells are actually made up of compounds or macromolecules, right? So we talked about macromolecules. And macromolecules are made up of atoms. So what I want you to see is like we're basically kind of getting bigger as we move along. So the year we started out really, really small with atoms. When you put atoms together, you can make compounds. Compounds form macromolecules. Those macromolecules are used within cells. So right now, the cell is the smallest thing in this particular unit, but just understand that the way of thinking is we're going from small all the way to bigger. So the cell is the smallest living thing. So we can say the cell is the smallest living unit. If you put multiple cells together, we get tissue. So the tissue is multiple cells that do the same job. Let's say purpose or job. If you put tissue together, you get organs. And then organs, you put multiple organs together, we get organ systems. So organs, we know they're like the brain, liver, heart. Largest organ that we have is our skin. And then we have the organ system. Organ systems are the systems that work together, organs that work together to complete something, some type of necessary job. For example, we have like the respiratory system, digestion system, skeletal system. You put all those organ systems, we get an organism. So the very smallest is cell, is the smallest living unit. When we put multiple cells together, we get tissue. Now the tissue, like muscle tissue or heart tissue, these are many hundreds of thousands of cells all together, and they do the same job. So they're very similar. And so when you put multiple tissues together, you get organs. Multiple organs together, you get organ system and then organism. Okay. So if we were to fill this in, remember the smallest unit is a cell. If we put multiple cells together, we get tissue. And then multiple organs is called an organ system. All right. Cool. All right, so let's talk about a little background and history about who discovered the cell. So Robert Hooke is the first person, and I think he looked at cork cells. Cork is like wood, right? And so, or made from wood. His name was Robert Hooke. He made his own microscope. Notice these he called them tiny boxes or little rooms. And he was the guy who came up with the name cells, because a cell in Latin means little room. After him was Anton van Leeuwenhoek. And so Leeuwenhoek, he was the first person to see cells of animals. He also discovered bacteria, which is an example of a unicellular organism. So uni means one. So bacteria is an example of a unicellular organism. Multicellular means many. So we are multicellular organisms. Why? Because we have billions of cells, right? And so, whereas bacteria, it's just made up of one cell. So, as these discoveries came in by Hooke and Leeuwenhoek and other scientists, they came up with what's called the cell theory. And so we're going to discuss the cell theory. So cell theory is made up of three basic rules. The cell is the basic unit of life in all living things. All organisms are composed of one or more cells, and all cells come from existing cells. And so you can see here, so you can't make a cell out of nothing. Usually it comes from something. In this case, this is what we call binary fission, where one cell, it kind of like replicates all the parts it needs, and then it just divides into two. And so in this case, you can see that the new cell came from, or the two new, we call daughter cells, came from a pre-existing cell, a cell at the very beginning. All right, so cells can be categorized into two major categories. One is called prokaryote. So karyote means nucleus, and pro means before. So karyote deals with the nucleus, and pro means before. So a prokaryotic cell is a cell with no nucleus. So the nucleus in a eukaryotic cell actually, what it does is it forms, or it holds the genetic information like DNA and RNA. But if you don't have a nucleus, then the DNA is kind of just floating throughout the cell. Prokaryotes are single-celled organisms. They're very small and simple. An example is bacteria. So the opposite, or not the opposite, but the comparison is a eukaryote. So eukaryote, or eu means after. So eu would be like after the nucleus. So very early on, most cells were prokaryotes, and then they started developing and evolving, and so they started developing nucleus. And so eukaryote means after being like after the cells start developing. So they have a nucleus that contains genetic material like DNA. They're multicellular organisms. They're larger and complex. The cells are actually specialized as well. So they have specialized cells. We should include that. So these cells are specialized. Like they have a particular job. So we have cells just muscular cells, right? We have skin cells. We have cells in our heart. We have blood cells. They're all specialized, and that's all within eukaryotes. So specialized is an important word there. And then lastly, examples are animals, plants, fungi, like mushrooms, that kind of stuff. So if we look here, which is which? Well, remember, prokaryotes before nucleus, eukaryotes after nucleus. We can see that this has a nucleus, so immediately I know it's a eukaryote. And then here, there's no nucleus. You can see it's a little smaller, so this is a prokaryote. Okay.